Thank you, Walter. Mr. Khalid Budali, Presiding Officer of AU ECOSOC. Brother Kafra Kambon, Coordinator of CPAN, and Brother Osai, Sister Angela Na Afoli Odai. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, members of the global African family, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this world. I wish to reflect on 20-year journey that brings us here today. As you know, I am the chairperson of the Caribbean Pan-African Network, and I can still vividly remember that day back in the year 2003 when I traveled from Barbados to the neighboring Caribbean island of Trinidad to participate in a groundbreaking African Union workshop to brainstorm the concept of the African diaspora and to work out a definition of the concept of a member of the African diaspora. And the definition that we developed at that workshop was as follows, and I quote: "The African diaspora consists of people of African origin living outside the continent, irrespective of their citizenship and nationality, and who are willing to contribute to the development of the continent and the building of the African Union." So it was very important that we establish what we meant by African diaspora. And then in the following year, 2004, against the background of the AU having officially established its Citizens and Diaspora Directorate or Office, CEDO, and its Economic, Social and Cultural Council, ECOSOC, two Pan-Africanist organizations from the Caribbean, the Clementine Movement of Barbados and the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago, collaborated with CEDO to stage a meeting of Caribbean Pan-Africanist organizations and activists in Bridgetown, Barbados. In fact, that meeting was held at the offices of the Barbados government's Commission for Pan-African Affairs. And the purpose of the meeting was to create a new Caribbean regional Pan-Africanist network that would partner and work with the relevant African Union institutions to help craft and implement the AU's 6-region diaspora initiative. Thus was born the Caribbean Pan-African Network, CPAN, exactly 20 years ago on the 12th of September, 2004. Kafra Kambon from Trinidad and Tobago took on the role of coordinator. I took on the role of chairman of CPAN. Sister Zakia Uzoma Wadada, she took on the role of administrative director. And 20 years later, we are still here, still walking the walk and talking the talk. The CPAN, I would like to share with you its mission statement. The mission statement is very clear. The network's mission is to develop and expand cooperation between Pan-Africanist formations in the Caribbean region, to work with other regional Pan-African networks, and to engage in a formal institutional relationship with the African Union in pursuit of the goal of empowering, developing, and integrating the African peoples of the continent and the diaspora. So that has always been our mission. We envisage that just as a regional network was established in the Caribbean, that other regional networks would have been established in other parts of the African diaspora, and that all of the regional networks would have a relationship. And of course, we would all engage with the relevant African Union entities such as ECOSOC and CEDAW. CPAN, we incorporated in Trinidad and Tobago under the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, and we established our headquarters in Trinidad and Tobago courtesy of the assistance of the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago. So our headquarters is actually, the CPAN headquarters is actually also the headquarters of the Emancipation Committee of Trinidad and Tobago. At our peak, CPAN had membership from 20 different nations of the Greater Caribbean. So virtually all of the CARICOM member states, inclusive of Haiti and Suriname. I think perhaps the only two CARICOM member states that we have never had membership from are Belize and the Bahamas. We also had membership and have membership from the French-speaking Caribbean territories of Martinique and Guadeloupe, from the Dutch-speaking territory of Curacao, from the Virgin Islands, and even from such Central American countries as Costa Rica and Nicaragua. And from the very outset in 2024, CPAN had a very close relationship with CEDAW in particular, and then on to ECOSOC. In fact, CEDAW was very instrumental. The CEDAW presence in Barbados when we established CPAN was very critical. And over the years, we worked very closely with Dr. Jimmy Adisa, director of CEDAW, Mr. Ahmed El Bashir, Dr. Disa's deputy, and our brother Osai, who we all know as Nana, who at the time was a program officer with CEDAW. He is now the program manager at ECOSOC. And brothers and sisters, if I was to characterize the record of CPAN, I would need to break it down into its 2 decades of existence. The first decade, from 2004 to 2014, I would say that we focused on such things as contributing to the construction of ECOSOC. CPAN members were involved in helping to craft the ECOSOC statute, in helping to develop ECOSOC's operational procedures. For example, we attended very important meetings all across the African continent, in Nigeria, Algeria, Ethiopia, the Seychelles, Egypt. Our membership was also very much involved in representing the diaspora on the ECOSOC General Assembly, and we did so as ex officio members selected by the chair of the African Union Commission. So because in those early phases, all of the statutory procedures for people, representatives of the diaspora to take up seats in the ECOSOC General Assembly, those procedures were not in place. Quite often, the chairperson of the African Union Commission selected persons from CPAN to represent the entire diaspora on the ECOSOC General Assembly. So Africa Cambon, our sister from Costa Rica, Martha Johnson, I myself represented the diaspora on ECOSOC. and it was always a great honor to represent, to be a representative on the ECOSOC General Assembly. I can still recall when I was inducted into ECOSOC in Egypt, in Cairo, and I had to take that oath, the public taking of an oath that I will be faithful, loyal, and bear true allegiance to the African Union and its ECOSOC, and will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitutive Act of the African Union. I will respect and promote the principles enshrined in the Constitutive Act of the African Union and abide by the rules and objectives of the ECOSOC. I will, in the course of my duties for ECOSOC, not seek or accept instructions from any authority external to the African Union. So help me God. So to be part of the ECOSOC General Assembly, it was and to represent the entire diaspora was indeed a very sacred duty. We also, in that first decade, contributed importantly to the construction of the African Union's Agenda 2063. We were able to play a role. We were able to input ideas and suggestions for Agenda 2063. And at home here in the Caribbean, CPAN played a very important role in championing the cause of reparations, engaging in education and activism, popularizing reparations within the Caribbean, and encouraging and pushing the governmental leadership of CARICOM to take up the reparations cause. CPAN pushed very hard for that fundamental decision that the CARICOM heads of government made in 2013 to establish a reparations campaign and a CARICOM reparations commission. We also produce Pan-Africanist educational material. I myself have, over those 20 years, produced no less than 10 Pan-Africanist publications, and we utilized the annual Emancipation Festival of Trinidad and Tobago as a location for annual high-level and people-to-people engagements between Africa and the Caribbean. So that was the work, I would say, of the first decade. The second decade, 2014 to 2024, having accomplished a CARICOM embrace of reparations, we then turned our attention to helping to reintroduce the reparations cause to Africa. You know, Africa had pioneered in reparations back in the early 90s, but had somehow lost the grasp of the issue. So we worked with our brothers and sisters in CEDAW and ECOSOC. We introduced our own reparations manifesto to them, and we have had spectacular progress. I mean, just last year we had the African Union Reparations 34 to the Caribbean, and that was followed by the Accra Reparations Conference in Accra, Ghana. I would say during that second decade, we also played a role in encouraging CARICOM to recognize that its destiny was bound up with the destiny of Africa and the African Union, and we encouraged CARICOM to reach out to the AU. In fact, I can still remember in 2015 when CPAN invested considerable resources in taking a substantial delegation, a leadership delegation to Georgetown in Guyana to meet with the Secretary General of CARICOM and his officers to discuss the relationship with the AU, the need for that memorandum of understanding to be signed, etc. And we have seen tremendous progress. In 2021, we had the first Africa CARICOM Heads of Government Summit. And just last Saturday, we were celebrating Africa CARICOM CARICOM Day. And of course, a big part of all of our work has always been the partnership with STIDO and then with ECOSOC, including the development of programs such as this Global Africa People to People Forum. CPAN has also always had a strong Caribbean focus to its work, and we have dedicated ourselves to issues like the unfinished decolonization campaign for the Caribbean, and the troubling issue of Haiti, trying to keep the spotlight on Haiti and to help Haiti out of its trauma. So, brothers and sisters, 20 years of solid work, and I would like to reflect that there are a number of outstanding CPAN leaders who gave so much and who joined the ancestors during that 20-year period. And I would like to acknowledge them this morning. I would like to call their names. They have left us, but they're not forgotten. And in fact, in spirit, they still remain here with us. Jean Emmanuel of the Virgin Islands, Jocelyn Clemencia of Curacao, Tracy Wilson of Trinidad and Tobago, France Ligros of Haiti, Nadia Ravelez of Suriname, Jocelyn Lonk of Guyana, Ras Iral Jabari of Barbados, Ras Frankai or King Frankai of Antigua and Barbuda, Sister Ijania Christian of Anguilla, John Lonk of Guyana, and Bobby Clark of Barbados. And we remember them, we hold them in such high esteem, and we know that their spirits are smiling with us here today as we commemorate 20 years of CPAN and its relationship with ECOSOC and SIDO. And let me just end by saying that as much as we have accomplished over the past 20 years, we know that there's still so much work still to do. We know that we still have to fully operationalize the AU's 6-region initiative. We still have to get all of those regional diaspora networks established. We still have to ensure that all of the ECOSOC assembly seats allocated to the diaspora are filled by legitimate representatives of the diaspora. We still have to populate the ECOSOC cluster committees and other relevant AU bodies with representatives from the diaspora. And we still need to build our regional CPAN network. And those of you in the Caribbean, those organizations and activists that fit the definition of a member of the African diaspora, persons of African origin, but committed to building the continent of Africa and building the African Union. We encourage you to reach out to CPAN, either apply for CPAN membership or to support CPAN. And there's still a very unfinished agenda for us in the Caribbean. CPAN wants to see all of our Caribbean territories become independent. We want to see them become republics, move away from the British monarchy. We want to establish annual African study tours to African countries. We want to do a lot more in our educational system to make sure that African studies are not marginalized. We want to see the African Union establish an embassy in CARICOM, and CARICOM likewise establish an embassy on the African continent. So there's so much work to be done, but we can be satisfied that we have achieved 20 years of accomplishment. We have established a very strong relationship with ECOSOC and SIDO, and that we are now poised to go on to accomplish that entire, thus far unfinished agenda. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure speaking to you this morning.